It is not possible right now to feed with, if you took every single blade of alfalfa in the entire United States and Canada and fed it to all of the dairy cows, there's not enough to do this.
No.
So they're doing laundering somehow. And her hypothesis was that there was a little bit of a process when you could grow it in the Ukraine and it routes through Turkey, and then magically it turns into organic from those two things, or non-GM. And it's not like there's somebody sitting at the porch checking every single one. And so it was like, people are trying to do this to be greener, and yet we're shipping alfalfa from the Ukraine through Turkey to the United States. So clearly, if you're trying to make this, if what customers are willing to pay for is a greener concept, having it shipped from the Ukraine is not making that better. So I'm glad somebody's taking this market opportunity.
Yeah, and it's the same thing as in corn and organic corn and soybeans too, Vance. It's happening in all these markets. Organic wheat. Look, we don't grow enough acres. Like I said, 200,000 acres of organic corn is not allowing everybody at Chipotle to have their corn tortillas organic. It's not even close to fathomable, right? And so this stuff's coming from somewhere, and it is coming from Ukraine and Turkey, and it's getting labeled as such and coming into our ports as organic corn, and it's not right. And I think there's some companies out there that are working hard to change this. Firms like McCarris are trying to bring some transparency to the size of the opportunity for U.S. farmers, but also the amount that's coming in offshore, because it just, this is just simple math, right? An Excel spreadsheet can tell you like the supply demand balance is way out of whack. So, the theory is that in 5 years, 5 years isn't that long, but there might be 3 or 5 million acres of organic crops in the U.S. to start. If they clamp down on the import side of things, then, the vacuum's got to be filled somewhere. You'd think the law of supply and demand would come into play, where all of a sudden somebody's like, hey, I'll give you $30 a bushel for organic corn. And then, a whole bunch of farmers in Minnesota decide, well, maybe it's time to grow organic corn.
Some of my favorite examples of how people have gotten around this in the organic world. So if you're growing tomatoes, for example, if you say, hey, I really only want to grow this one particular hybrid tomato, if you go and can find certified letters from the different seed companies that they don't offer that in organic, then magically, if you have those 3 letters, your seeds become organic seeds. Or you can ship seeds that are standard seeds in the United States. They're not GMO seeds, but you can ship them down to Mexico as traditional seeds. They are grown, and then magically, as they cross the border, they become organic tomatoes. And I think that, like, to your point, this is a detriment to, if you actually want to set up an organic system in the United States, allowing all these loopholes just creates incentives, massive incentives, not to actually build out the system, but to keep widening out the loopholes. And so, like, the people that are funding it that want something like organic or non-GMO are not getting what they want. In fact, they're just propagating a system that is the opposite of what they want.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And there's lots of loopholes right now, so some, even the few organic farmers that we have aren't even buying organic seed right now. Most of them aren't buying organic seed. What they do is they say, I want, the soybean variety DF 155 in organic. And then they phone us and we're like, well, we don't have that one in organic. And then they are able to check the little box on the certifiers form saying, I checked if it was available organic. It's not. So I did all I could. So, and then it still gets certified as organic. Now they're clamping down on this more and more out there. Like, they're starting to say, well, wait a minute, like, you could have got a different one, or, found this someplace else. So we'll see how this develops, but there's lots of little loophole, as anything, right? It's human nature. We're going to find a shortcut if we can.
Do you see the organic market growing? I mean, it's because it felt before, with totally anecdotal, that there was like a big push for this. This is something people talked about. They wanted. Clearly, if you're in this market, you must assume that it's moving this way, but it doesn't feel the same way that it did, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's interesting. Anecdotally, I kind of felt like during COVID, there was a few month period where I kind of sort of felt like there was more emphasis on organic, and maybe that was because I was walking into a grocery store more often than I'd ever had in my life, and just, it's sort of, you buy a car and also, well, shoot, everyone else is driving that same damn car I just bought. Like, I didn't know that, and so all of a sudden, moving to legacy seed companies and having some of these offerings, and then plus the pandemic going on and all that stuff, and I was noticing it more and more. But that could be just anecdotal on my end, that it was maybe a little more heightened to it. But I don't see, definitely not the push overall like there was 4 or 5 years ago. I think that sort of died down a little bit. But consumer, the category is still, I think, 20% year over year CAGR versus, I guess probably most dry good groceries did really well this last year. But the category is outstripping growth of other areas. So it is turning into more organic, but it's still not like it just has not translated into one more acre of organic corn or soybeans than there was 2 years ago, though, which is bizarre that it had, so again, back to our original discussion, that this stuff's coming in from Turkey and other areas that is, the USDA organic stickers being slapped on the side, and it's sort of BS, right? Not sort of, it is. And I think consumers just don't understand all those complexities. Right?
Thanks for checking out this podcast short. If you'd like to listen to the rest of the interview, it's linked below. And if you like this kind of conversation, you may want to consider joining the Articulate Ventures Network. That's a place where people meet other podcast listeners, get to be a part of a digital neighborhood, and really get a chance to practice things like how they write, their speaking skills, and have a place where they can have an open dialogue with people that want to discuss ideas and leave all of the insults and the craziness of regular social media out of it. So if you're interested, go to network.articulate.ventures.